Welcome, everyone. My name is Karen Barton, and I'm the training manager here at National MI. We're delighted to have you, and I'm very proud to introduce not only a colleague of mine, but a good friend of mine, Ray. Rain, the floor is yours.
Well, thanks so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so happy to have you on the call with us and to have Kristin here. The information she's going to provide to you today is going to be invaluable for helping you grow your business and reach out to those millennial realtors. We're just thrilled that you're here. We want to say thank you so much for the business that you're sending our way. We value that business, but more importantly, we value your partnership and we value your friendship. So thank you very much for being here. I'm going to issue a challenge to everybody today. We'd love to double the attendance next month. So share Kristin's webinars with your team members, with your sales managers, with your loan officers. And next month on the 15th, we'll be having another webinar. So let's see if we can meet that challenge. I'm very proud to introduce Kristin to you today. I've had the pleasure of working directly with Kristin at our MBAC conference. I cover the Carolinas, both North and South Carolina, with my wonderful business partner, Rob Melton. And what I'd also like to do is encourage you, if you don't know your account manager or your account rep with National MI yet, make sure you check our website or reach out to our training department. We will get you connected. We love to partner with you to help you grow your business, and that's something that's very important to us. So take advantage of that relationship that you have out in the field, and we're there to work with you together as a team. So let me tell you a little bit about Kristin. Kristin is an amazing speaker. She speaks nationally on the topic of business growth with millennials and also multicultural consumers. She's also the founder of Cultural Outreach. Her company helps reach millennials and underserved segments through employee training and the development of corporate strategy. She's spoken at over 100 conferences, including the Mortgage Bankers Association, the American Bar Association, and Harvard Business School. She holds over 13 years of experience working in multicultural business and in social work. And prior to starting her own business, she was a social worker and a community educator in the Latino immigrant community. She's led teams of volunteers locally and abroad to develop sustainable business practices. And she's also consulted for multinational social enterprises with the Center for Creation of Economic Wealth. She was trained by former McKinsey consultants at the University of Oklahoma, where she earned her Master's of Public Administration. And Kristin co-authored the MBA Section 342 Compliance Toolkit. She's also the managing editor for Mortgage Women magazine. And if you're not following Kristin yet on social media, I promise you after today, you're going to want to do that. So without further ado, let me welcome you again, and let me go ahead and turn this over to Kristin. Kristin, thanks so much for being here today.
Great, thank you so much for having me. I am really excited about presenting on this topic. We've talked a lot over the years about how to reach millennial homebuyers, but obviously the strategy to reach realtors is critical and always has been. But we haven't talked a whole lot about millennial realtors. And I got inspired on this topic after, if you're familiar with Mortgage Coach, Dave Savage, the founder, CEO of Mortgage Coach, does a lot of interviews with leading realtors and loan officers. And I was with him when I was helping to do an interview and watching some of his other interviews with millennial realtors. And I realized that there is a big need for loan officers to understand not just how to reach millennial consumers, but how to really leverage relationships and generate more business from millennial realtors, which is going to be, I think, pretty similar in some ways, but really different from the way that we've always done things as it relates to reaching different realtor communities. So anyway, I'm excited to talk on this subject. I'm normally in freezing Boston, and I'm really excited today to be calling in from Los Angeles, where it's warm. There's lots of people with the flu, but thankfully I don't have that yet. So just enjoying the warmth in LA. And thank you guys for joining me all across the country to talk on this subject. As was mentioned before, I do love comments and questions and examples. So if you have any that come up throughout the webinar, just leave those in the question box, and I will try to get to as many as possible. And if you have questions later, you can always email me directly at Kristin@culturaloutreach.net, which is listed on the screen. So I'm going to get started. So my company offers two different types of business offerings. One, we do the multicultural millennial marketing strategy, where we're looking at your entire strategy, but we also just launched a new division of our company called Modern Loan Officer. ModernLoanOfficer.com provides loan officers with social media content and strategy. So check that out. We have a bunch of free content on there as well. And I would love your feedback on that as we really get that rolling. And then through our partnership with National MI, which is now going on 3 years, we have put together a ton of content. So if you don't follow National MI on social media, make sure you're doing that right away. Facebook, LinkedIn, and of course, we're sharing this content as well at Cultural Outreach. But we're putting out tons of content just to help support your growth with millennials and multicultural segments. So for example, this month, you'll be seeing an infographic come out on the top social media trends in 2018. And next month, you'll see an interview from the managing director or executive director of NAREB in talking about the state of African-American homeownership in America, and talking a little bit about Black History Month. So make sure you're staying in touch for that kind of thing. Our team has expanded quite a bit over the last month to provide you guys with additional resources. We just brought on the former president of the Asian Real Estate Association. And so we're getting a lot more connections and involvement in the real estate community, which is really relevant for today's presentation. And then we just hired a new VP of digital marketing, and digital strategy. So if you have any questions that come up related to the topics we're talking about today, Angie, Taylor, and myself and the rest of my team will be really well equipped and happy to help you. So as we get started, I want to start by giving a little bit of context as to who millennials are and why this is an important topic. Millennials are generally between the ages of 18, 20-ish to about 36. Really depends on where you look as to how we define that. A generation is just generally defined by a shift in our culture as a society. So that age range can kind of differ a little bit, but and it definitely overlaps with Generation Z, which I did another presentation on from National MI. So if you go to nationalmi.com/MIU, you can see the presentation on Generation Z. But millennials are the largest generation in U.S. history and the most diverse. So we're representing a huge amount of the market, making over certainly the largest share of home buyers in today's environment, and a lot more millennials are becoming realtors. So a little more information about us. I am a millennial, by the way, if you didn't notice. And so about 2 in 5 millennials are married, and half of us have children. I do not have children, but a lot of people kind of assume that millennials are really young and not really interested in buying homes. But we're making up the largest share of home buyers. We are professionals. We have a lot of, we're in our 30s at this point, and so mid-30s, late 30s, and are having children making these decisions to buy homes. There was a little bit of a delay in purchasing homes because millennials have delayed getting married and delayed having children. But I want to put it out there that we are there and we are making these decisions, not to mention that, as we talked about in many other presentations, millennials are interested in buying homes because they believe it's a good financial investment, not just because they think it's the next thing to do in life. Because they have kids, they should buy a home. I know a lot of my friends and people that I survey across the country are primarily interested in buying a home because they think it makes good financial sense. So, of course, in your marketing, keep that in mind as well. As I mentioned, we have seen a huge decline in marriage or delay in marriage. This chart here is the percentage of adults between 18 and 31 that are married and living in their own household. In 1968, that was upwards of 55%. And in 2012, that was around 22 to 23% of the US population. So really interesting how we've seen this kind of delay. And that comes from a really great report by Goldman Sachs on this subject. So we've seen the delay, but again, it hasn't impacted, it's impacted homeownership rates to some degree, but we're the largest share of home buyers, and you're seeing a huge influx now as we're getting older as well. So some of the things that define this generation give us context around who we are and some of the reasons that we behave the way that we do generally. Of course, we had 9/11. We came into adulthood during the Great Recession, and President Obama was kind of known as a more millennial-driven president, and that's who was president as we were coming of age. And then we are digital native. We didn't quite like come out of the womb holding an iPad like a lot of people are today, but we were very young when the internet came out, and we were the first generation to be young when we were purchasing our first smartphone and using social media. So that had a huge influence on how our expectations are when we come to purchase a home, or how we expect to interact with people, and particularly salespeople. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of those values that I started to touch on, and then get into how you can build your network with Millennial Realtors and specific marketing strategies for reaching Millennial Realtors. So to start, it's going to be focused a little bit more on some general, very broad trends within the Millennial generation. You may have heard some of these before if you've been on any of my Millennial presentations, but then we'll get into specifics on reaching Millennial Realtors after this initial section. But the values perspective is, I think, a really important way to set the tone as we have these conversations. And of course, as we talk about this, by the way, not every millennial is the same. As I mentioned, millennials are the most diverse generation in history, and we're ethnically diverse, and we're all individuals. So keep that in mind and chew all this up with a lot of salt. So the first value I want to bring up is this value for fast communication. Millennials process information faster than previous generations did. A part of that is because of this digital age that we've grown up in, where we have instant access to information, and we're seeing headlines. I mean, at a very young age, we're consuming information through scrolling through feeds. And that creates this kind of general expectation that you're processing information very quickly, and your brain has actually adapted and evolved to process information a little bit faster. That has also set the expectation for fast responses. So we are accustomed to being able to send in a quick response or quick question and get a quick response in return pretty much right away. When I order almost anything online, I can chat with someone instantly. I just expect the chat function to be available. So that's something that we'll talk a little bit more about. But and we expect fast delivery as well. So we don't expect to buy a home overnight, but we expect to be able to quickly see where we are in that delivery process. Like when I order food from, and I'm not sorry to say, I'm a big fan of wings. So I order wings pretty often, and I can track the progress of those wings being made every time. And I can chat with someone if for some reason I think it's taking too long. That's the world we live in. And so just knowing that expectation exists and that we have that value, it doesn't mean that we expect you to toss your life away and just wait for us to ask you a question, but it means that we have that expectation when we are going about any purchasing process. Secondly, and very importantly, we value relationship and trust. A lot of people think that because we value the quick communication and technology, that we don't care about the relationship. But I have found through a lot of research, both from major think tanks and from just in-person surveys, millennials value relationship more than anything. We want to know that we can trust you. And we do not trust traditional advertising. 84% of millennials don't trust the traditional advertising type of approach. And so we are coming at everything a lot more skeptical. And the more authentic that you can approach us, the more likely we are to feel like we can trust that we're going to want to give business to you. So of course, from the Millennial Realtors perspective, if you are someone who is authentic and maybe you're not the most tech savvy person, but you're someone who genuinely provides great information and is someone that I know my customer is going to be able to have a great, is going to be able to trust them, then you're going to be head and shoulders above the rest. In one of the interviews, like I mentioned, that Dave Savage, a mortgage coach, had done with a top millennial realtor, Ryan Niemeyer, he said, and I quote, "Authenticity is more important than professionalism." So it's not about making sure you have the cleanest, nicest suit. It's about making sure that you're authentic and that people can get to know you. So if you have attended any of my social media webinars or heard of, just you hear from any social media expert, authenticity and hearing your personal voice is so important and maybe the most important aspect. Millennials who do their research online, they're gonna, most people will look you up on Facebook and see what kind of person you are, and they don't want to see someone who is just, clean cut or clinical and just sharing, standard posts. They want to see that you're a real person and you're someone who they can authentically connect with. And this is actually a really exceptional interview for getting more tips on this subject. So you can check that out on YouTube on the Mortgage Coach page. But again, that authenticity is just is maybe to me one of the most important things. Third is access to information and resources. Of course, we have our just information starved as a generation. We expect to have tons of information available at our fingertips at all times. And that's how we're approaching making any purchasing decision. We do a ton of research. I mean, if I'm buying something like a few cups to have at the office, I literally go on to Amazon and look at customer reviews before I make that purchase. It's every single tiny little purchase we're doing tons of research on. So of course, when we're making the biggest financial decision of our lives, we're going to want to have access to as much quality, trustworthy information as possible. And the more that you can really drive those resources, the more likely we are to trust you and feel like you're going to be a great guide through the process. So from the Millennial Realtors perspective, they want one, information for themselves that is going to be helpful for them being able to guide their home buyers, their customers. But two, they want to know that you're going to be able to provide them with great information through the process as well. Transparency and really be able to give them access not only to your own resources, but be a guide through all of the information that exists online as well. And we expect our providers, particularly in a purchase like this, to be our guide. So we're likely to look around and fact check you a little bit. But the most important thing for you to understand is not to feel like we're second guessing you, but to give us the information and ability to verify what you're saying. So you might give us all that information I was just talking about, but say, and you can check out this and this website for more information on what I'm talking about. We want that verification. And we want to look to you as someone who is, of course, talking about the authenticity before, someone who's authentic, genuine, who I can ask questions openly to. I can say, hey, I don't know, why is it that I saw a rate lower than mine? And you can explain that. And so the realtor wants to know that you are going to be someone that we can ask those questions to, and that we can seek advice and guidance throughout the process. And then the use of technology and multi-channel communication has become a really big value for us. 87% of millennials are within reach of their smartphones at all times, and we're just constantly moving between different apps. We use instant messenger very frequently. We use a lot of different social media platforms. As I'll emphasize later, I think Facebook and LinkedIn, but particularly Facebook, are extremely important today. People generally older are using LinkedIn a lot more, so that's why I emphasize that. both in the Millennial Realtor segment, Facebook is very key, and I think is actually going to continue to expand over the next few years. I know we do use other apps, and we can talk about that on another webinar if you have questions about it. But just keep in mind that overall, with instant messaging and different social media apps, the key is to provide formal, professional information, but be informal in your communication. Be authentic, I guess I should say. It's about your genuine voice coming through in all of these channels. So if you're using Instagram, don't post just a well-designed, some graphic designer put together a picture and an ad on it. You can put those together on occasion, and you can put a quote on an image on occasion, but also show pictures of, you at an event or just some authentic images from the office, things that allow me to get to know you better. But again, understanding that the language differs across different platforms is going to be really important in today's multi-channel kind of communication standards. So I just put together this infographic actually on talking about the difference from the way things used to, the way our communication stack used to look like and what it looks like today. It used to be that we had a very standard, a linear process where, if you notice in the left corner here, you hear about someone, you call the realtor, you call the loan officer, and you go to their office. It's pretty much it. I mean, it is very driven by you getting in front of the customer or getting heard from someone else, a referral or whatever it is. And there weren't a ton of referrals being had. They're not getting 5 different referrals and then doing research on all of those referrals like we have today. In today's approach, we're looking at an omnichannel approach, meaning we have a lot of different communication platforms. Everything is online. We get several referrals from people on Facebook, on instant messenger, on text messaging, by voice because someone told us about you. And then we are looking you up on all of these platforms. We're looking at customer reviews, and we're making the decision as the buyer how we want to communicate with you and how we want to reach out to you. So that is a huge shift in our values and how we're approaching this process that's changed over time, and that Millennial Realtors are highly hyper aware of. For a Millennial Realtor, they understand the omni-channel approach as being that's natural for them. The kind of offline linear process feels very old and archaic, and just so it's really important that you embrace the buyer-driven strategy in talking with Millennial Realtors and making sure that you know what Millennials are, how they're communicating and finding you. We'll talk more about specifically how to do that. So you'll notice here there's over 45% of Millennials are using instant messenger and chat functions. Again, part of that multi-channel approach. And we'll talk more here in a minute about how you can specifically do that. So I want to make sure that we have time to really dive into the marketing strategies. So I'll run through the building your network section a little bit faster. But before we do we have any questions?
Thanks, Kristin. Matt asked about using Instagram, and I think right after that you addressed it that it's okay to go ahead and use it. Just be a little bit more specific with your pictures and authentic with you personally, not just copying other people's feedback. But if there's anything you'd like to add to that, you're welcome to.
Yeah. I mean, with Instagram, I think that it's a really great strategy, especially looking at Instagram Stories features that's out now. I think we have an infographic that we just published on this topic. So if you check the National MI Facebook page for that, and I can send you more information on it. But yeah, keep it very, very authentic, and make sure your images are beautiful, captivating. You're putting a filter on it. But overall, I, again, really emphasize focusing on Facebook if you're not just killing it on there already.
And then Luann, thank you for your comment. Again, we appreciate questions or comments. And Luann, just wanted to give you a shout out that it's great info so far. Who knew?
Great. Okay.
That's all we have for now, Kristin. And again, if you want to add any comments or questions, if you joined us late, the question box is on the panel itself, so just go ahead and type in there and we'll address them at the next break.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so building your network. One is to be active on social media. Of course, we can't talk about millennials without talking about social media. So we talked about this just a second ago, but just to give you a baseline, like this is the foundation of where you need to be on social media. One, make sure you're up to date on every platform. So if you have an Instagram account, make sure it's up to date. If you have a Google Plus account or Google My Business, just make sure all that kind of stuff has your up-to-date photo and information, contact info, all of that. When people Google search you, they're coming across this kind of thing, and you want to make sure they can contact you and that you appear as a modern loan officer. And then be posting regularly on all of these platforms, or at least, again, on Facebook. I would recommend that, again, you just really focus on the Facebook strategy, publish regularly, respond to comments that people leave on your posts, and share other people's posts as well. So you're really engaging with your audience. And that's just at a bare minimum, that's what you should be doing. It doesn't need to take up your whole life. I mean, you can set aside 30 minutes once a week to really go on and publish or like schedule posts if you have a business Facebook page, or maybe go on 3 times a week for 15 minutes and respond to people's content. But put that in your calendar and make sure that you do not leave that aside, because this is how people are communicating. This is part of the new multi-channel approach. And so you can't ignore social media. If you're ignoring it because you think you're just too busy, then you need to hire someone to help you with that. It's not, I think people think that social media or customer reviews is something that it's just nice to do if you have the time, but it is absolutely a necessity, and you're losing a lot of leads if you're ignoring it. Social media is not necessarily about capturing more or like an immediate turnover of revenue. You're not posting on Facebook and then seeing someone comment, hey, I would like a loan. You're posting on Facebook and you're posting regularly, and then your audience builds. And when someone says, hey, John is a great loan officer, you should really work with him, then that Millennial Realtor says, oh yeah, I follow him, he posts great stuff. Of course, I'm going to reach out to him. And he doesn't think twice about looking at other referrals. Or it's because he starts thinking, okay, I want to build my network with another loan officer, or he starts seeing your content and realizes, hey, that's a great person to connect with. So it's more about building that brand by being active on social media. And of course, millennials and everyone is active on social media. I was just talking to someone today who was talking about his 90-year-old father who just loved social media, and baby boomers who are much younger than 90 but they're the fastest growing segment on Facebook. And so you have a lot of growth in all of these communities, but millennials, and particularly millennial business professionals, are very active on Facebook and social media as a way of connecting with other professionals. So it's, again, just really important. So I want to walk through a few of the social media trends. I think we're doing another webinar where I'll talk about this more coming up. Maybe on the next webinar we're doing is talking about artificial intelligence and some of the AI, Bitcoin trends. And I think we may touch on this as well, but if not, I'll be promoting it more in the future. But just a few of these trends include, one, ephemeral content, which means content that goes away quickly. You saw this first with Snapchat, but now it's available on Facebook and Instagram stories, where you post a video and it goes away after 24 hours. It's just a short, kind of another informal, personal way of connecting. So you might post something from an event, and keeps people engaged and helps people feel like they're getting to know you a lot better. And there's a huge emphasis on storytelling. So it's all about telling your story, talking about who you are, and engaging with other people in that story. Another major thing is live streaming, going mainstream. So again, that live video feed and live conferencing, live video. We'll talk more about that here in a minute. But of course, everything is mobile first. Everything is about the on-the-go mobile strategy. So second tip to building your network is, of course, to meet with realtors. So this is maybe a no-brainer, but certainly goes, I mean, with Millennial Realtors, you still want to meet in person. Reach out to them, talk about, see if you can grab coffee together or grab lunch together, and really focus on listening to what their goals are. Millennial Realtors are generally a little younger in the business, and they're going to want someone to either partner with in growing their business, or they're going to want someone who is going to mentor them as they grow their business. So don't dive into a sales topic conversation, dive into listening. Ask what their greatest successes are, what their greatest challenges are, and think about how you can help them as just, again, kind of that authentic person, and be a mentor, friend, or partner. And then we'll talk more about this later, but follow up with an email or text. I would highly recommend that you follow up with a text message, and maybe even a video that follows that as well. Third is to go to open houses. And Karen, I think someone might be not on mute, because it sounds like we're hearing some feedback from GoToWebinar.
Yep, I'm working on that right now. Thanks.
Okay, cool. Okay, so third is to go to open houses. Again, pretty standard way to grow your network, but you might consider ways that you can add value to those open houses, like bringing resources, really thinking about how, like, do you offer the best homebuyer education guide? Do you have a really modern, nicely designed checklist for homebuyer tips? And those are things that the realtor is going to very much value and appreciate in you bringing to the table. Of course, starting with the lunch or coffee or conversation that you can talk about, bringing that kind of value. If you use Mortgage Coach, realtors love this and love having it accessible at open houses. And then while you're there, tag them and post something on social media. Not as a formal, like, hey, I'm trying to sell this house. That is really not effective on social media, and I do not recommend it. But instead, sharing a selfie or a photo of the kitchen, saying, like, this is a beautiful kitchen, love going to open houses with, Sally, whoever, and tagging them in it. And it really helps to promote that in an authentic way. And then fourth, share educational resources online as well. So not just in person, but also, as you're posting on social media and you're communicating via text and instant messenger, that you're sharing educational things. We put together a report on the best mobile apps for home buyers at every stage of the process. And this is our 2017 report. We'll be doing a 2018 one in a few months here, but it's still very up to date. And you can download that at modernloanofficer.com/apps, APPS. But it's really helpful if you know what people are using, and a lot of realtors loved this report. We also have a handout that you can share at open houses and things like that. But just be aware of what people are using and how realtors could have another channel of communication and another piece of value for them to share with their consumers. For example, there's one mobile app that we had in the report. It was called HomeSnap, and a lot of loan officers that use the report share that with Millennial Realtors or with their realtor partners, and they got such positive feedback because the Millennial Realtors especially would love being able to use some of the apps like HomeSnap I was mentioning, where you can take a photo of a home and comment on it and communicate with your buyer through the app. And there's a lot of apps that do that kind of thing, but anyway, it just adds a lot of value to that multi-channel approach, and another way of really adding kind of a quality resource. And then fifth is to network at local chapter organizations. A lot of people don't realize how many minority trade associations exist and where those chapters are. that's an area that I really focus on for the multicultural strategy. But given that, of course, millennials are, nearly half of millennials identify as ethnic minorities, that the minority chapters in particular are really important to get involved with. NAREP is the Hispanic Real Estate Trade Association, and there's ARIA, the Asian Association. There's a whole lot of different ones that I'm happy to share all of those with you, but get involved in some of those, and even the National Association of Realtors. A lot of millennial realtors are wanting to find their network, and even looking at some of the local chamber millennial associations, like the Young Professional organizations. When I was in Tulsa, we had a Tulsa Young Professionals that was a really active, huge group, and it's a good way to get involved and just, even if you're not a millennial, offer to just give resources to the group, like financial education or sponsoring different things, and you would be surprised by how much support and relationships you can garner through events like that. And then I think this is last in the network section, send fast responses to messages. As much as possible, if someone texts you a question, respond just right away. I mean, you may be in a meeting, so wait till the end of the meeting, but as soon as that meeting's over, send a quick response. If there's a lag in communication, a lot of times millennials will just move on. So the fast responses is an important one. And then the actual last one I wanted to mention here is to use video to send information. And this is something when you first get a new realtor connection, and you want to share some information, like some kind of, like if you use list reports or something like that, and you want to talk about, hey, I have this thing that I wanted to share with you, try using something like Loom. I do not get paid by any of these vendors, by the way, but I love Loom. You can take a video, a screenshot video that includes your face on it. So you're talking while you're showing your screen, and then you can share information and say like, hey, I just wanted to send you a few follow-up information. I want to let you know that we offer, I can give you access to this or share this piece of information with you, and just wanted to let you know I'm here as a resource. You know, you kind of send this short video, keeping it just a maximum couple minutes, but probably around 30 seconds, and then you text over that video. And with Loom, it will automatically give you a link, and you can just send that link by text or instant messenger or email if you need to. And but the sending of information through a video live capture like that is so helpful. I had there was another millennial realtor interview that was done that I think it was actually the one that I just mentioned, Ryan, who talked about how that was the first thing that he was intrigued by when he worked with a millennial loan officer, or with a loan officer. He said, you know, he sent over a video, and I thought that's such a good way to communicate and good way to connect. So definitely don't dismiss that one. So now I'm going to take a quick break before we get into marketing strategies and see if we have any questions.
Kristin, we had a lot come in on Facebook, and we'll save those to the end because we did do a Facebook to the Max video, and if we have time, we can address that. But some more specifically, like Ryan says, is Loom only on the iPhone?
No, Loom is. I've only used it on Chrome, but I use it on my laptop and my computer all the time. I've actually never used it on my iPhone, strangely enough, but I use it to share, you know, a presentation or to share some kind of quick demo for people. So, but I downloaded it as a Chrome extension. So if you use Chrome on your computer, and you probably should, and then you can access that easily. And I'm sure it's available on other web browsers as well.
Okay, yep, they said good to know that it's for the computer, and then Matt indicated that he couldn't find it on Android. So we'll follow up with that.
It's not actually, it's not actually an app that I'm aware of that you download from like the App Store. It's something you use for presentations. If you're doing something from your phone, you can always just record a video and send it. I mean, it's not gonna, you know, it's more difficult, I think, when you're sharing a presentation. But if you're sharing just a video and you want to say, hey, just want to follow up with you, like, you know, give you a little bit of information, and you're not sharing your screen, then just do a video on your phone, and that's easy enough.
Okay. Can you repeat your modernloanofficer.com again? I've got several comments coming through that it's not working or they want the address exactly.
Yeah, I just tested it right before I got on here. This always happens. modernloanofficer.com/apps, as in like applications. If that doesn't work, you can click on dashboard. I can send this out to you guys, but if you click on dashboard, you'll see a link to it on the left-hand side. But modernloanofficer.com is where it's located, and it is a free resource available on the site, so you don't need to subscribe to get it. But if the link for some reason isn't working, either way, I'll send this out with a follow-up email.
And I just tried it, Kristin, and it works okay. So I think sometimes they're putting S's in there, like modern loan officers. Just make sure it's officers singular. Yeah. Yeah. But it is working.
Thanks, Karen.
At least working on my phone anyway. So
okay.
Would you say that using the phone, making a phone call when you're reaching out to realtors for the first time is the best way for the first contact?
I would say that, well, it depends on what first contact you mean. If you have, I mean, I just always texting. To me, texting, and every millennial I've ever met prefers a text thing. And I would actually, if you are cold calling in some way, don't text message them, but Facebook message them. And so that they can put a face to the name. I, again, also wouldn't cold call anyone, or even I would friend them on Facebook first and then reach out. But yeah, I don't think phone calls are very effective until you get to know each other better. Once there's trust built, it's a whole lot easier to have a phone call, but for the most part, a text message or Facebook Messenger message is going to be a lot more effective.
And I'll just do a shout out to Ron. He just posted your website link on there. So
great, thank you.
And Kelly also said several great videos and programs there, and it works for her. So I think we just got maybe a spelling, or just use the link there that Ron provided. So, and yeah, if you have time for a couple more.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so they want to know if Loom is similar to Marco Polo.
You know, I don't know that one. I'll have to look that up and let you know. I love anything like this where it's a screen capture video type app. So if you guys use anything else, write those in the chat box and I will look into it.
Okay. And Christopher said, first of all, Happy New Year, Kristin. And he learned something new once again with your comment on live stream usage. So we wanted to say thanks. And then what do you define as a lag? More than an hour?
Great question. I mean, if you can, it's flexible, but just as soon as you get to it, I wouldn't try to reorganize your day or anything, but just even if you send a message saying, hey, just saw your message, I'm going to send you a response later today, or something that just says, hey, I saw this and I'm getting to you, you know, at some point today, or I'm going to call you in the morning, something like that. That's a good way to touch base. And I think go ahead, Karen.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, if we could actually, I'll move through the marketing strategies and then I'll respond to any questions at the end. And if there's more questions that we don't get to, I'll do a follow-up with that.
Perfect. Thanks, Kristin.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I also wanted to mention that on the video aspect, like you can send, of course, live video or just a recorded video from your phone. You can also on Facebook Messenger send videos. So you can record a video and it's one of the icons that's on the message. And it's a really cool way of communicating because it allows for that personal connection. It's on this platform where people can look you up and see who you are if for some reason they don't know, or but it creates that authenticity and personal relationship. So I highly recommend you use that. So of course we talked a lot about the multi-channel approach, but that is no different when we talk about actually marketing to millennial realtors. Using Facebook, again, I want to drive that point home. Facebook is so important as part of your strategy. At the basic level, have a Facebook business page, your Facebook personal page, looking nice, looking public, and that you're posting regularly to both of them. Not the exact same content to both. Your business page should be a little bit more professional, but make sure that it's not just about the business page, it's about the personal connection. So it's you that they're talking to, you that they're following. It's not just, you unfortunately cannot differentiate those and be effective in your marketing. If you absolutely refuse to be friends with any business partners or whatever on Facebook, you'll have to have them follow your business page. But I just don't recommend that. So you can check out my Facebook to the Max webinar that's available on the National MI website as well as modernloanofficer.com. And I have a ton more tips on that and downloadable materials there. And I'm also happy to answer questions on that. But also on the multi-channel approach, of course, we've talked about using short video. If you want to talk about like, hey, I've been getting a lot of questions about credit lately and wanted to share the short video, that's a great way to communicate. And you might text it over to a few Millennial Realtors individually, or send them, of course, Facebook Messenger, or publish on your Facebook page. And then utilize and share some of the home buying apps that I talked about a second ago. That's another multi-channel approach. Most of the other stuff we've talked about already. So secondly, on Facebook, of course, drive home this strategy and make sure you're really focused on this to capture more Millennial Realtors. Here's a few tips for you to keep in mind on your Facebook business page specifically. So again, like I said before, make sure you're connecting with people on your personal profile. That means becoming friends with them and then asking them, requesting that they follow your business page, which you can do through the app. But here's a few things to keep in mind. One, make sure that you have a call to action button on your business page that shows how to contact you. You can arrange that on your business page. If you don't know how to do any of this or you don't want to mess with it, you can purchase our team to set up your Facebook business page on modernloanofficer.com. So there'll be premium add-ons in the dashboard that allow you to just purchase a Facebook page faceless, basically. And then keep in mind on your Facebook business page to post regularly, posting educational resources, videos, any articles that you think would be relevant to your audience, and ask for customer reviews. So after every closing, send a link to your Facebook page and ask for a customer review. This is such an important way to help Millennial Realtors really be able to trust you and validate that you're someone who they can trust with their customers. And then you can also consider diving into Facebook ads. This is something you want to definitely check with your compliance department, your marketing department, but it's a great way to get more of a following on Facebook by boosting your page or by creating ads. And I use that word very loosely, but you can create a Facebook ad by sharing some kind of educational resource. So let's say you want to capture more Millennial Realtors. You can create a Facebook ad that is sharing the, the mobile app report that we could customize for you, or whatever resource you have. You want to share that, hey, we have, this list reports or mortgage coach, and you want to share that and get more of a following for people. Or let's say you created a video about what kind of value you're offering realtors. And so you create in the Facebook ad section an advertisement that goes out to only realtors between the ages of 22 to 45, and in this particular zip code, you can hyper target who sees that advertisement. So it's really incredible, a really awesome strategy that I think is extremely effective and allows you to use your resources very wisely. So this is an area that my team can set up for you or respond to any questions you have on this. So feel free to reach out to us and we can help you with that. Third is video. Your video strategy is so important, not just in communicating like I've been talking about, where you're sharing a message with someone, but also publicly. So create short videos that share expertise so that your entire audience can better get to know you. Record videos that are FAQs or quick tips, and share this content on your Facebook page, on Instagram, whatever social media channels that you're using. And this helps people to understand that you're someone that can be trusted, you're someone who has a lot of expertise, and they feel like they have a connection with you because they've seen your videos. I promise you, over and over again, I have seen loan officers that use video are so much more effective with millennial consumers and millennial realtors. And then fourth, provide quality services, of course. If you're gonna reach millennial realtors, we tend to have a little bit of a higher, we want to know that you're gonna be the best out there. I always say that millennials have the worst FOMO I've ever seen in my life. And FOMO is a very millennial term, so if you don't know it, it's fear of missing out. But we're always worried we're gonna miss out on the best quality of whatever it is. So if we go to a restaurant, we've looked at 20 other restaurants on Yelp before we get there, because we want to make sure we're going to the best restaurant. If we're using a loan officer, we're going to partner with a loan officer, we want to make sure you're the best one. So some of the ways to show that you're the best are to just provide the top-notch, best educational resources and services. Make sure that you're creating materials for the open houses and to share online, that you have stuff easily downloadable and accessible on your website and on your social media pages, and host lunch and learns, host events, partner with the millennial realtors to host a homebuyer education seminar at a happy hour or at an employer's, like a company's lunch and learn session. So think about innovative ways that you can provide quality services and education both in person and online. And of course, consider your overall online brand. What does it look like when someone Googles your name? When I Google Kristin Messerli, which I do regularly to make sure that this is what comes up, I want to make sure that I'm seeing things that are positive, that I just was about to work with someone who, as an investor on a project, and I Googled his name and all I saw were lawsuits come up. And I thought, no way, this is not a good idea. So make sure that when something comes up, what comes up with your name is something that you want your customers to see. And you can create what you want to see through asking for customer reviews, for creating social media profiles and updating those, and just make sure that your brand tells the story that you want your consumers and your partners to see. And this is a quote from the Goldman Sachs Millennial Report that I highly recommend you read. They, being millennials, are twice as likely to trust a brand that is present on social media than the baby boomer generation, and are much more likely to search for brands using social platforms. So we're a whole lot more active on researching particular people and partners on social media. And then lastly, focus on families in your messaging. Focus on that personal connection. So instead of talking about how many closings you've done or how many units you've done, millennial realtors are going to be a whole lot more interested in the impact that they're having and the impact that you are having. So communicate from that authentic perspective as to what's your why for being in this industry. You're in this because you believe in helping families. You believe in making a difference in people making the biggest financial decision of their lives. This is a quote from a top producer, again, on a Mortgage Coach interview. Jeremy Forcier says, "There's no more units anymore. There's no more volume. It's number of families served on all my goal sheets everywhere. Number of families served." Instead of talking about how much money you're making, which absolutely turns away millennial realtors. We want to make money. Millennials certainly want to make money, but in order to be trusted and someone who aligns with a millennial partner, you got to talk about the impact that you're having. So in summary, and I'm going to open up for questions now, make sure you're using Facebook and that multi-channel approach. Respond quickly to things. Use video to record and share video publicly and in private conversations. And share your expertise through online resources and resources you can share, open houses, And lastly, be an authentic, mission-driven person. The great thing about today's marketing is that it's about being yourself and providing value to your audience. So it's no different with Millennial Realtors. We created this little infographic on how to build your network of millennial referral partners that I will send out in a follow-up email to you guys. But it's basically a summary of everything we talked about. Just wanted to let you know that you'll be receiving that. And lastly, I wanted to, of course, mention again that we just launched modernloanofficer.com. Would love to get your feedback on this, and we're really getting a lot of positive responses on the content we're providing. We've been a digital agency now for a little while, but we're trying to make that a lot more cost conscious and easily accessible to everyone. So we give social media content as well as educational tips for social media. You can try it out first week free at modernloanofficer.com. If you want help getting set up with anything, or you have questions on anything that we didn't get to today, you can contact me directly at Kristin@culturaloutreach.net, or of course connect with me on Facebook or LinkedIn. And I would love to help you guys really make sure you're modernizing your services and better reaching millennial realtors. So Karen, I'll pass it back to you to see if we have any questions.
Kristin, we have a ton of questions, so I'm sure we'll have some good follow-up for you afterwards, but quite a few comments at the end that I think are worth repeating. And, you know, Christopher says that he liked what you just stated about number of families served, and I think it's all about the passion and all about the heart, right? Once we have that straight, the money will come. So good point. Linda says, absolutely wonderful webinar. David says, thank you, Kristin, for helping me dreaming big. And Dan says, wow, I'm exhausted after watching this presentation. Great information. And so you probably would concur with me, Kristin, and it's one of those things where you can't do everything all at once, but if you just start with one simple step and get that under your belt and accomplish that, it's going to help your business grow, right?
Absolutely, yeah. This will be recorded, so you could pause, just watch 5 minutes of it, take that first action step, and then come back to it. And of course, like I said, our team is available to help you with the baby steps every step of the way. Right.
And we have a great presentation. Thanks for making it more understandable on how to best communicate with them. And Jason wanted to know if there was a code for the first free week.
Right. We used to have that as a code, but now you can just, when you subscribe, it'll give you a free week in there. So no code needed. Okay.
And then Wayne says, I can relate to this. Great info. Thank you, Kristin. This will help me out as a 50-year LO trying to connect to the younger generation. And Sandy wanted to know if it's recording. And yes, we are recording this. It'll go out with a link tomorrow on our survey. So be sure to respond to those. And you'll have the recorded link there. It'll also be posted on nationalmi.com in a few days, so give us a few minutes to get that posted. Jason and David both said thank you, great information, and with that, I think we're out of time, so I'd love to have Rain take us out. Rain?
Karen, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you, Kristin, and thank you everyone for being on our call today. We encourage you to come back and join us again next month. And we hope that you'll take advantage of all this great information that Kristin has provided to you. Thanks again for joining us. For snowy weather, people, please be safe and take good care. And we will see you next month. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you. This concludes our webinar for today. Everyone have a great day.